This is CBC Here and Now.
Times change. Times are changing, and we must change with them.
We don't want to lose men like Edward Roberts. The province suffers a loss when that occurs.
It is a deep loss. There's no one like him. I don't know if there ever will be anybody like him.
Well, the tributes are pouring in today for the late Ed Roberts. Roberts died today at the age of 81.
We have a very colorful warning board for this weekend. Blizzard warnings, freezing rain warnings, and rain warnings all in effect. I'll have all of the details.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Peter Cowan.
And I'm Carolyn Stokes. Edward Roberts, former lieutenant governor and politician, has died.
He was a fixture of politics in this province, starting back in the Joey Smallwood years, serving under cabinets under 3 different premiers.
We'll bring you several highlights over the course of Here and Now this evening, but first, our Terry Roberts takes a look back at the contributions and legacy of Ed Roberts.
Edward Roberts has served as a model of duty, leadership, and achievement.
Ed Roberts in his element, surrounded by ceremony, steeped in tradition, this time as he received the Order of Canada in 2010.
He was instrumental in bringing about important reforms in the areas of health, education, social services.
Edward Moxon Roberts passed away at home in St. John's this morning, following a 6-month battle with cancer. The final chapter in a life that saw him linked to many pivotal moments in the province's history during a political career that spanned 4 decades. His passing prompting tributes from other notable leaders, both past and present.
We don't want to lose men like Edward Roberts. The province suffers a loss when that occurs. The people of the province lose the benefit of his thinking and his tolerance and understanding and his fair-mindedness and treatment of people.
It is a deep loss. There's no one like him. I don't know if there ever will be anybody like him. Tough as nails. Absolutely tough as nails.
Roberts was this province's 11th lieutenant governor, a role some say he was destined to hold. As vice-regal, he transformed Government House, threw open the doors to the public, the media, bringing a softer side to the role. Most people didn't know the vice-regal was a country music fan. A really big country music fan.
It's good music. There's some better than others.
But still firmly committed to the long traditions and duties expected of the Queen's representative, including serving as honorary colonel for the Royal Newfoundland Regiment, which he was especially proud of because of his passion for history and the regiment's bloody role in the First World War. Roberts was a political stalwart during much of the province's post-Confederation era. He was a young Toronto-educated lawyer who cut his political teeth at the hip of Premier Joey Smallwood in the 60s and later served in his cabinet. He took over as leader of a fractured Liberal Party in 72, but his aspirations to lead the province were cut short in part by Smallwood himself, who formed a breakaway party that split the Liberal vote in 75.
And when you total up the votes that the independent Liberals got with the votes that the Liberal Party under Ed Roberts got, they certainly would have had a clear majority in the House, except for the way in which Mr. Smallwood caused the votes to be divided. That was regrettable because Newfoundland missed having a very, very good and able premier.
In all, Roberts was elected 8 times, and despite his city roots, wealthy upbringing, and Upper Canada education, represented constituents on either the Northern Peninsula or Labrador. Current MP and former Cabinet Minister Seamus O'Regan served 3 years as Roberts' executive assistant in the early 90s.
I was a good Goose Bay boy, young enough, I think, perhaps to be complicit in doing whatever he needed to have done without any backtalk.
O'Regan says Roberts was a tough and demanding boss because he was so competitive and saw so much potential in the province.
What I got out of that was an incredible education from perhaps one of the greatest teachers and students of Newfoundland and Labrador's history that we've ever had.
After years in opposition, Roberts left politics in 1985 to focus on his legal practice. He didn't know it at the time, but he wasn't done with politics. In '92, when Premier Clyde Wells needed an Attorney General and Justice Minister, he threw away the political handbook and called upon an unelected Edward Roberts to join his front bench.
It was marvelous having his competence and his abilities and his soundness of judgment and his concern for people, his great sense of fairness and all of that available to me. It was a difficult time, and it was great having his services available.
Roberts won a seat in a by-election in the former Labrador district of Naskapi later that year and won his 8th and final election in '93. Roberts served for a brief period in the cabinet of Premier Brian Tobin, but left politics for a final time in the winter of '96, ending a career that saw him spending 23 years in the House of Assembly. His love of language was often put on display during the cut and thrust of political debate, often at the expense of those on the opposite side of the House.
He was superior in that regard. He had a great intellect. He was a very bright man and could respond very quickly and see things very quickly, and could at times have a somewhat acerbic tongue in his comment. But he was never unkind.
He knew how people saw him. They saw him as incredibly intelligent. And instead of running away from that with due humility, he actually played with it and enjoyed it.
His post-political career was equally impressive. He served as chairman of Memorial University's Board of Regents for nearly 6 years. Then in 2002 was appointed Lieutenant Governor on the advice of then Prime Minister Jean Chrétien.
My wife and I are looking forward to traveling, meeting people in every part of the province.
While serving at Government House, Roberts earned a master's degree in Newfoundland history from Memorial University.
If you talk to anybody that worked in a law firm where he was a partner, or anybody who worked in the Department of Justice where he was a minister, or anybody that ever worked with him, every public servant or individual that you would speak to would speak very highly of Edward Roberts because he treated everybody with fairness and respect.
Roberts left Government House in 2008 the same way he entered, with class, or in language he might use, with dignified deportment.
It's a wonderful job. It's a wonderful way, I think, to be able to make a contribution to Newfoundland and Labrador and perhaps to the whole country. We've enjoyed being here, but there is a time to go, and this is it.
Edward Roberts was 81. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Lovely tribute. Well, in a news release, Premier Andrew Furey offered condolences to Roberts' family and friends.
Now, flags at provincial government buildings will be lowered to half-mast until sunset on the day of his funeral.
And the current Lieutenant Governor, Judy Foote, released a statement today on the passing of Ed Roberts. She called him a mentor and wrote, "His more than 50 years of service to the province made him a pillar in the legal and public communities. We will remember him for his passionate enthusiasm for history and the indubitable pride he had for Newfoundland and Labrador."
Next weather maker starting to get itself together just south of the Maritime provinces as we speak. Let's take a look at what's going on. There's that storm there, intensifying as well as we're seeing. You can just see how large this system really is, extending all the way south. And that is going to continue to track further north as we head through the night tonight. We already saw some rain associated with this system a little bit earlier today in eastern Newfoundland, but you can see the grays and the pinks already across the Maritime provinces, and that's exactly what is headed our way over the next 24 hours. So taking a look at what's happening right now, some showers out ahead of that. That's pretty much it right now, but we are going to see some flurries, light snow, even some freezing rain for parts of the Green Bay, White Bay area, as well as the northern peninsula. And these temperatures really going to climb up with heavy rain for a good chunk of the island tonight. And then some blizzard conditions expected for Labrador. Here's a look at your temperatures overnight tonight. Lab City down to minus 34 with an extreme cold warning. I'll have all the details on the full forecast when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Another person has died from COVID-19. Public Health says it's a woman in the western region who was over the age of 70. This marks the 24th person in the province to die from COVID-19. There are still 8 people in hospital, 3 of those in intensive care. We also have an update on the daily numbers, more than 400 new cases today, plus 71 from that testing backlog. But after more than 1,000 recoveries, the active known case count has actually gone down to 5,500 people.
Well, the president of the Personal Care Home Association is appealing to government to provide retirement homes and assisted living facilities with rapid tests. Sean Lane also operates Silverwood Manor in Kippens, where about 90% of the residents and 75% of staff have tested positive for COVID-19. He now requires his staff to be screened prior to coming to work.
Before anybody comes to work, they have to test negatively before they come to work. We put that in. That is not what the government's policy is, and I will have to deal with government on how I get more rapid tests, but they've actually put it in writing to me that any other rapid test that I use or I have to pay for myself, which as an operator, if I can find them, I will. But I really feel it's government's responsibility to give us the tools that we can protect our most vulnerable citizens.
Now, Lane says Silverwood Manor isn't a hospital or nursing home, but says this week it's had to operate like one. More of his conversation with Chrissy Holmes, that's ahead in about 20 minutes on Here and Now. The unions representing teachers and school staff are reacting to yesterday's plan to bring K-12 students back to the classroom later this month. They generally support it, but as Here and Now's Mark Quinn reports, many want reassurances that schools will stay open safely.
NAPE does want to see schools reopen. It believes it's what's best for students. The union represents thousands of people who work with the education system, like student assistants, school administration staff, and some bus drivers. But NAPE's leader says many of them have questions.
What if there's a positive case? What if there's an outbreak in a school? Can I take this home to my family? What happens in that case? How am I protected? What's available to me? Do I have to isolate?
Earl says the union is calling on the province to make sure there's a plan in place that will safely keep schools open long term.
Just say opening and closing the schools repeatedly is having a major impact on staff and children. So we got to find a way, can we continue the education system and deal with issues as they arise? Because they're going to arise. And that's one thing we got to face is likely there's going to be positive cases develop.
The province's Teachers Association also supports government's plan to reopen schools.
We view it as a very positive thing.
But it also wants to be sure every possible safety measure is in place before the reopening plan is confirmed.
By opening schools, it's going to be the largest gathering of individuals that's going to be permitted in this province right now in an indoor setting. So we need to be ready to return, and those proper protections and protocols need to be in place when we get there.
The education minister says the final decision to reopen schools or not will come on Wednesday. He says the provincial government will work closely with public health officials before making that decision. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Emergency services in the province are feeling the strain due to the rapidly spreading Omicron variant. Many paramedics and volunteer firefighters are in isolation due to COVID exposures or positive tests. Daryl Roberts reports.
The president of the Paramedics Association of Newfoundland and Labrador says with numerous paramedics self-isolating due to COVID-19, co-workers have to pick up the slack. Rodney Gadis says that makes an already stressful job even more difficult.
So anytime there's another wave that comes on, it's just an extra weight on our shoulders.
Still, he says paramedics are available to respond to emergencies. Volunteer fire departments are also feeling the impact of Omicron. Dwayne Angel is the president of the Newfoundland and Labrador Association of Fire Services. He says most fire halls have suspended group activities to prevent the spread of COVID among volunteers.
It does leave you in a pretty bad situation as a fire chief, because you don't know if you have enough people that are going to be able to respond.
Still, he says the public doesn't need to worry.
And a lot of planning has been done to ensure that if they need our fire departments right across this province to attend the scene for them and be there to help them, they're going to get the help that they need.
Daryl Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, Eastern Health is responding to concerns from Whitburn, where the community's healthcare center suddenly closed its emergency department. The temporary shutdown is due to COVID-19 cases impacting staff. As Jeremy Eaton reports, Eastern Health is apologizing but assures residents it's not a sign of things to come.
This sign went up a week ago. Emergency department temporarily closed. A decision that the town of Whitburn isn't dealing well with.
My phone is rang off the wall. They're ready. They're ready now to protest this because they know how important it is, not only, like I said, to this town, but to the surrounding areas and the highway.
Eastern Health says it wasn't a decision that was made quickly or easily.
This was a very difficult decision, and we turned every stone. We tried every possible option of staffing that place, redeploying from other areas, but there was no other option.
So that meant moving staff from here to the medical center in Placentia to protect its long-term care. In total, 7 employees were temporarily relocated.
We were starting to feel the pinch of our staff being either off with symptoms or contact tracing. And we got ourselves in a pickle with staffing, and we had no choice but to divert for safety reasons.
It's not just the mayor sounding the alarm. The owner of the nearby private ambulance service has concerns as well.
As of right now, every transport we do, regardless of how minor or major it is, we have to transport longer distances. That means the ambulance is going to be out of the area for an extended period of time beyond what we normally would expect it to be.
Eastern Health's Vice President of Medical Services says there is a procedure in place if there are no ambulances here. Mutual aid, meaning when all the ambulances are gone, 911 is notified and calls get diverted to the next nearest operator.
No time wasted. So the next operator is then given the phone call to help mitigate any delays in transfer of the patient who's requiring the ambulance.
In the meantime, family practice, outpatient treatment, and chemotherapy are still being offered here, and the situation is being closely monitored. This sign won't be permanent.
We have our fingers on the pulse of this, and we're going to end this as soon as we can.
We're looking at it every day from very different angles. And as soon as we're able to make some changes and bring those staff back, we're committed to doing so.
Both VPs apologize for the emergency department closure, but say the issue is discussed daily at the executive level at Eastern Health. Jeremy Eaton, CBC News, St. John's.
The latest modeling by Canada's Public Health Agency suggests Omicron will push hospital admissions to extremely high levels. The agency says Omicron is running rampant and it expects several weeks of very intense activity. But Canada's top doctor, Theresa Tan, is hopeful that the variant is reaching its peak.
This is the early signal that we could be approaching that peak.
Nationally, the positivity rate is 28%. That means more than 1 in 4 tests for the virus is positive, nearly 5 times higher than at any other point in the pandemic. The modeling suggests there could be as many as 150,000 new infections a day sometime this month.
Well, taxes are going up in Gander this year. The yearly water and sewer rate will be around $100 more, in addition to changes to the mill rate and business taxes. Town Councillor Wilson Hoff says the increase reflects the growing costs of running the town, paying down debt and paying off a new wastewater treatment plant. But Hoff says nearly half of the town's budget goes towards payroll and benefits. Hoff says the KPM report recommended hiring 3 more staff members, although he says they haven't done that yet. But he says they will continue to monitor operations and they will make changes if need be.
The family of a Newfoundland man who died last month in a Prince Edward Island jail says an inquest into the man's death is not necessary. Kenny Hodnott is originally from Shoe Cove on the Bayvert Peninsula. He was found unresponsive in the lockup area during routine checks on December 16th. The CBC's Wayne Thibodeau reports.
And an inquest is not going to make him come back.
Maureen Poirier says she was heartbroken when she learned that her ex-husband, Kenny Hodnott, had died last month at the Provincial Correctional Centre near Charlottetown. He was only 47. The chief coroner says he died of a cardiac event.
He was an alcoholic, and the liquor took over, and found himself homeless and on the streets.
Hodnott was in jail for public intoxication when he died. Poirier kept in close contact with him, even after their separation. She says he was a good father, but struggled with alcoholism for decades.
Even though he couldn't take care of them, he certainly loved them, and they were his world.
She says Hodnott was a very generous man, the kind that would help anyone, anytime. But he struggled.
If he was a man that was healthy, had ended up in jail for whatever reason, and in the morning he was dead, you'd wonder what happened. I'm kind of glad that he died in jail and not die under a tree and people go by and say, oh, that's just a bum sleeping. And he could have been there 2 or 3 days before someone found him. Having died at the jail, at least somebody found him at the right time.
PEI's coroner says an inquest isn't needed, but the Justice Minister has the power to call one, and he now says he'll do that. Poirier doesn't believe it's necessary, and her daughter agrees. 18-year-old Brittany Hodnott told CBC News in a text, "My father just passed away. His family is still grieving. There were so many other ways to talk about what happened. An inquest was not necessary. His death was not a big mystery needing to be solved. I am a student, trying to figure things out. I didn't need to be the girl whose dad died in jail."
It's awful how addictions can take over a person's life.
Poirier says Hodnott was in and out of addiction centers more than 20 times over the past 10 years. She says it got to the point where he was either living in a shelter or on the street. Police would routinely pick him up to take him to the shelter or to jail for his own safety.
The thing with addictions, unless the person is ready to admit they have one and that they want to quit, it doesn't matter how many hands are out there to help them, they have to want to help themselves.
A date has not been set for the inquest. Hodnott will be buried this spring in his hometown of Shoe Cove, Newfoundland. Wayne Thibodeau, CBC News, Charlottetown.
Ashley, it seems like we're having the tale of two winters. If you love rain, then St. John's is the place to be. If you love snow, then you better be in Labrador.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, looking ahead, that is exactly what a good chunk of the rest of January looks like, unfortunately. So let's start with this one right now, and we'll take a look at where we sat today temperature-wise to above zero, again, for eastern areas of the island. Let's take a look at those temperatures reaching a high near, so far, 6 degrees in St. John's, 2 in Gander, and those temperatures are below zero for Deer Lake, Corner Brook northward, and then up across Labrador as well. Nice break, relatively speaking, for Lab West, going up to about -20 today, which is a lot warmer than it has been, but we're still seeing those wind chill values in the -30s. And as we head through the night tonight, we are going to continue to see those chilly wind chills. So feeling more like -46 to -50 as the overnight wind chills go. So extreme cold warning is in effect for you, has been reissued. Now, a number of warnings in place across the province. Eastern areas of the island under a wind warning. And then we have that freezing rain warning from Corner Brook, Deer Lake through the interior up through Green Bay, White Bay, including Northern Peninsula East. And then we have rainfall warnings along with that in most areas, especially along southern areas of the island. And then if we head towards Newfoundland or Labrador rather, we have those blizzard warnings. Same thing for the Northern Peninsula, and then all along the coast up through Makovic, and then there's that extreme cold warning for Lab West. So we do have a number of warnings in place, and we'll just time out when all of that is going to happen. Kept the temperatures on there so that I can kind of show you what's going on. So most areas are already up above zero, and where we're seeing those freezing rain warnings is where those temperatures will be hovering somewhere between into the minus single digits overnight. So we've got some of that warm air overriding that cold air, and that's when we see those freezing rain conditions. So this will continue through a good chunk of the overnight. Once we get into the 3 to 4 o'clock in the morning range, we should see those temperatures jump back up above zero, and that should transition through to rain. But the Northern Peninsula is still messy. So anywhere you see that pink is the potential to see some freezing rain, even some snow in the mix. And the snow is going to start for you in southeastern Labrador through the overnight tonight. And it's going to continue and get very heavy at times through the day tomorrow. Now, know what happens on the Northern Peninsula as far as the mix goes. Temperatures still well below zero. We could see some periods of freezing rain and or ice pellets. Some of that ice pellet mixture may make it right along the south on the Labrador side. So conditions could improve briefly into the afternoon for you as far as the visibility goes. But overall, the rest of the island pretty much looking at those temperatures well above zero with rain through the day. Now, as that system continues to track a little bit further north, we start to wrap around some of that colder air, and the temperatures will drop on the west coast. The potential to see some freezing rain again as we transition through to snow, and then things start to get a little bit messy Saturday night into Sunday morning, really. And it will continue through the night, and this is when those winds will ramp up. I talked about that yesterday, and eventually, as we head through Sunday morning into the afternoon, we will see those conditions improving as far as that snow goes right across the board. So speaking of wind, winds will ramp up tonight. Now they'll be out of the southeast to start, and we'll see those gusts between 60 to as much as 100 kilometers per hour, especially in those wind warning areas. And then as we head through the day tomorrow, we start to see those stronger winds up across Labrador, and that's when we'll start to see those blizzard conditions. And some areas in the east and southern Labrador could be seeing those gusts near 100 to 120 kilometers per hour. And that will continue through most of Sunday morning, and eventually those winds will ease as the day goes on. So as far as rainfall amounts go, this is what we're looking at. 50 to 70 millimeters is possible, even 80, certainly possible for the southwest. In the metro area, you're looking at about 20 to 30 millimeters, and then there's that potential again for the freezing rain. And as far as snowfall amounts go, the most looks like southeastern Labrador, where we could see upwards of 50 to 70 centimeters falling through Sunday. Combine that with those winds, definitely going to see blowing and drifting snow for sure. And then the further east you go, the less snow, but Corner Brook, you could be straddling that line between 15 to 30 centimeters, certainly by the time we get through to Sunday. So I have a little bit more detail on the timing when I come back.
There is a significant COVID outbreak happening at a personal care home in Kippens. The operator of Silverwood Manor says it should be a wake-up call to government to better examine the distribution of rapid tests. Sean Lane is also president of the Personal Care Home Association, and he is making time for us in the middle of all of this. Sean, we appreciate that. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me today, Chrissy. I appreciate it.
Give us a sense of what the COVID situation looks like right now at Silverwood.
Well, it certainly is much better than it was a number of days ago. We experienced significant numbers of COVID infections amongst our residents and amongst our staff. We had approximately 85–90% of our residents and about 75% of our staff infected, which which gave us a very difficult number of days. People seem to be coming around the corner. When you're in their rooms, when you're dropping in to give them their meals, what have you, people's health is starting to improve, and we're really happy to see that.
I understand this is very much an unfolding situation. Glad to hear that things are starting to get on the other side. But right now you say that there is an urgent need to talk about access to rapid tests. What is going on?
We really feel that government needs to step up and give us the tool to help us make sure that whoever's coming into our building has been properly tested. And that portion we think would have really helped our situation as well. But what we really want to talk about today is helping the situation in other personal care homes or assisted living facilities on the island so that their staff are protected and they don't unknowingly bring the virus into work. We have had rapid tests here at Silverwood now for a couple of days, and when they arrived here, we immediately started rapid testing our staff that were in the building. They can work, because when we started rapid testing, we immediately tested a staff member who had 0 symptoms but came up positive, and we had to send them home. And to their dedication, they left the building crying because they seen the need that was here, but yet at the same time they realized that they shouldn't have been at work, but it was none of their fault. 2 days later, we started to put this policy in place where all of our staff were rapid testing at home before, our negative staff, before they would come back to work. And we picked up another staff member that was positive. So, that helped us alleviate some of the challenges that we're facing. And what we're asking for government is, don't give us a policy that allows us to rapid test 2 days a week or 3 days a week. Give us a policy that gives us the very best chance of identifying the virus within our staff so they can stay out of the building. I just really don't think that testing once every 3 days gives us the best shot.
How accessible are those rapid tests right now?
Well, they're as of yesterday, they were not very accessible. In all of my research in the last couple of weeks of trying to find rapid tests, I know that there are, in dealing with different suppliers and what have you, I know there are rapid tests on the island in warehouses. There are hundreds of thousands of them that the federal government has provided to us. We need to find out what our priorities are, and our priority has always been our most vulnerable citizens. And let's get the rapid tests into our hands so that we can be given the best chance to provide protection to our staff and to our residents. We are not a hospital, but yet we've been asked over this past week, we've had no choice but to do what a hospital does. We're not a nursing home, but this past few days, we've had to do things that nursing homes do. And we're definitely not equipped for that. So we really feel that rapid tests would certainly assist us in keeping the virus out of our home. Will it guarantee it? No, but it will certainly help us through homes across this island keep the virus out. It'll be better than nothing, that's for sure, and much better than twice a week or 3 days apart. It is no time to wait around and put out policies that are doing half of the work. We've got to get down to business here. This is a virus that spreads very quickly, and we need every tool in the toolbox to help us do the best that we can so that we can help the healthcare system as a whole.
Sean, we'll continue to follow this story. Thank you so much for your time.
Chrissy, I appreciate your time, and thank you so much. Have a great day.
Now, we did reach out to the Department of Health this afternoon to ask about Lane's request for more rapid tests for personal care homes. A spokesperson said they'd get back to us. They're working on getting us some more information, but we haven't received it yet. Canadian man imprisoned in Egypt for nearly 15 years is back in Canada. Mohammed Al-Attar was in a Cairo jail in since 2007 on spying charges.
I can't believe I'm home. I can't believe I can see this again.
Al-Attar, who is also known as Joseph, arrived at Toronto's Pearson Airport this morning. He was arrested in Cairo in January of 2007 during what he says was a vacation to see family. He was charged with spying for Israel while in Canada and swiftly sentenced. The case centered on a confession that Al-Attar maintains was obtained by torture. His claims are supported by human rights groups.
Well, the Canadian men's soccer team has suffered a big setback. Star forward Alphonso Davies is expected to miss 3 upcoming World Cup qualifiers. He's been diagnosed with inflammation of his heart muscle following a bout of COVID-19. Davies plays for a professional team in Germany. Earlier today, the team said he was diagnosed with mild myocarditis when he underwent an examination conducted on all players who have had COVID-19. In most cases, the illness is mild and temporary. Davies, who is from Edmonton, will sit out for a few weeks. That's bad news for the Canadian squad, which is scheduled to play qualifiers starting January 27th in Honduras.
The Ukrainian government has been hit by a massive cyber attack. The websites of several departments have been targeted, including the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Education Ministry. The message included an image of the Ukrainian flag and map crossed out. Officials there haven't come to any conclusions, but they suspect Russia is behind it. The attack was launched after recent talks between Russia and the U.S. and its allies ended in a stalemate. Russia was seeking assurances that Ukraine and Georgia would not join NATO. Russia has deployed about 100,000 troops on the border with Ukraine.
Well, tributes are pouring in today for the late Ed Roberts. The former lieutenant governor and longtime politician passed away this morning at the age of 81.
Roberts has played a prominent role in post-Confederation politics in this province, starting in the 1960s. So, naturally, we have a lot of archival material as we followed his career, and we put some of that together for you.
Mr. Speaker and members of the Honourable House Assembly,
I think, sir, that to coin a cliche, the time has come when we must do a root and branch job on education. And by that, I'm not speaking of the denominational system. I'm speaking of the whole purpose of our educational system. And by the educational system, I'm including not just the academic schools, I'm including the vocational schools, I'm including the university, including all of the institutions which provide our people with training for life.
Times change, times are changing, and we must change with them. I'm sure that an independent Quebec would go after Labrador. And I think that makes our job as a province, as a government, as people interested in this province, all the greater. If we don't fight and work to hold Labrador, then all we're doing is playing into the hands of the PQ, of the separatist movement. I'm going on the principle, which I think ought to be the one underlying this bill, that unless it is hurtful or harmful to make information public, well, then it should be made public. I've been on the phone the last couple of days, last day or so since I made my announcement, and was saying, gee, you can't leave us. I had one guy say to me, you owe it to the party. And I said, look, my friend, if there's a guy in Newfoundland and Labrador who doesn't know anything to the Liberal Party, it's me. I mean, I've paid my dues, and I'm going to do what I believe is best.
So you don't think that members necessarily need this much privilege then?
I don't think for a minute a member needs this much privilege. I think you can say what's on your mind without having the freedom to run somebody down, to defame them, to knock them to pieces. The law protects fair comment, the law protects honest beliefs, the law doesn't protect defamation, and nor should the House of Assembly.
The new police force came about after months of negotiations. The Innu-speaking officers will work alongside full-time RCMP constables.
We, by which I mean the government, and the RCM police, and the band peacekeepers, and the council and people of Davis Inlet, have an opportunity to learn from each other. It's my sincere belief that we have a lot to learn from the Innu philosophy of policing, with its emphasis on preemptive crime prevention, peacekeeping, healing, and reconciliation.
Roberts was installed as Lieutenant Governor at a special ceremony at the House of Assembly this afternoon.
I, Edward Moxon Roberts,
do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance
to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
To Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. I've always been one who spoke his mind. Sometimes people agreed, sometimes they didn't agree. I think people knew where I stood. Now I have no political views, I have no partisan views. The Lieutenant Governor represents all of the people of the province, speaks for all of them.
Ed Roberts has been part of the social and political elite of this province all his life. Maybe that explains why he's willing to go as far as he is going to drain the moat of protocol still surrounding his official residence.
But why, in this day and age, should you need an invitation to come to a garden party at a house that is a public house? It's paid for with public money and is a public building in that sense. And then the more I thought, I said, well, why not ask everybody?
So does Mrs. Roberts share your love for country music?
Well, she did say, for better or for worse, in the words of the ceremony. And I won't say it's her first choice. But,
but she puts up with it.
Oh, she's very good about it. She's very good about it.
Thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you. It's a great pleasure.
take a look at who's celebrating this week. Toby and Susie Abbott, originally from Musgrave Harbor, now living in Paradise, are celebrating their 64th anniversary. Happy 58th anniversary to Jean and Bryce Thompson of Point Leamington. Happy 60th anniversary to Earl and Mary Oram of Gambo. Happy 69th wedding anniversary to Melvin and Lena Grandy of Garnish. Happy 58th anniversary to Stan and Frances Vineham from Northern Arm. Happy 63rd wedding anniversary to Ted and Louise Ryan of Monroe.
Happy 57th wedding anniversary to Bill and Isabel Fillier. Big happy 50th wedding anniversary wishes going out to Kathleen and Bill Philpott of Plate Cove East. Anniversary greetings going out to Raymond and Emma Foster, who are celebrating a big one, 70 years of marriage. Love and best wishes from family and friends. Happy 57th anniversary to Phyllis and Ron Peddle of Chance Cove. Happy 64th anniversary to Bud and Joy Squires of Deer Lake. Happy 50th anniversary to Rose and Rocco White from Centerville.
Now to some birthdays. Happy 93rd birthday to Maud Strobridge of Corner Brook. Happy birthday to Rose Casey, originally from Conch, now living in St. John's. She's celebrating her 95th birthday. Happy 93rd birthday to Gladys Hussey. She lives on Bell Island. Happy 93rd birthday to Mildred Daw of Seldom Fogo Island. She's now living in Gander. Happy 90th birthday to John Bromley of Conch. Happy 93rd birthday to Maureen Brown. She's from St. John's, but now lives in Witless Bay. Happy 90th birthday to George Hemian of Botwood.
Ina Oldford will celebrate her 90th birthday this weekend. She's from Burnside and now lives with her daughter in Capelin Cove, Trinity Bay. Wishing Sterling Freak of Appleton a very happy 90th birthday. Happy birthday to Annie Cooper. She's turning 91. Happy birthday to Myra Suley, who's turning 92. Myra is from Heart's Delight Islington in Trinity Bay. Happy 90th birthday to Ron Billard. He lives in Clarenville. And best wishes going out to Arthur Inkpin, living in Clarenville. He's celebrating his 101st birthday this week.
Wow, big congratulations.
Happy birthday to Lily Penny, who's turning 94. She lives in Springdale.
Cecilia Walsh is turning 92. Happy birthday. Special birthday greetings going out to Mita Pye, who's celebrating her 91st birthday, formerly of Lodge Bay. She's currently living with her daughter in Charlottetown. Happy birthday to Joan Barber, celebrating her 95th. Sending birthday wishes to Amy Penny, who celebrated her 93rd birthday this week, formerly of Happy Adventure, now living in Gander. Happy 92nd birthday to Robert Chalk of Charlottetown, Bonavista Bay.
This weather update is brought to you by the NL 511 app. Know before you go. Check road conditions, highway cameras, and the provincial plow tracker with the NL 511 app.
I'll take a look one more time at the forecast for tomorrow. Busy weekend weather-wise. We're looking at windy conditions for most of the day on Saturday for eastern areas of the island. Let's take a look at the forecast for tomorrow. Temperatures well above zero, 7 to 9 degrees for most areas, but those winds will generally be out of the south, and they could be gusting upwards of 100 to 120 kilometers per hour through the day on Saturday and through the early morning hours on Sunday. Now, things get a little bit more messy for the northern peninsula, and your temperatures should stay below zero, where we'll see more of blizzard conditions through the evening hours on Saturday, and then blizzard conditions a really good bit up across Labrador, and temperatures the warmest in the southeast at -2, but lots of sunshine for Lab City, hovering around -22 through the day. So Saturday evening, that's when we'll see those really strong winds for coastal areas of Labrador, and then things start to get a little bit gnarly for the west coast as well into Sunday morning. Eventually that snow will end, but temperatures will be dramatically colder than what we're going to see tomorrow, anywhere from -3 to -10 across the island, and then those temperatures in Labrador dropping as well. Cartwright around -11, and you're going to see that snow and blowing snow continue at least through the first half of the day, with temperature around -20 for Nain. You stay out of this one with lots of sunshine through the day. Now, as we head through Monday, looking at a quiet day to start. Monday evening, the next system will start to roll in, and this is going to bring some snow for Lab West. Otherwise, some sunshine and temperatures into the minus single digits for the island, minus double digits the story for the rest of Labrador. So a good day to clean up for sure from that storm from the weekend. Now after that, another warm up as we head through Tuesday. This will bring snow to Labrador, well, Lab West anyway. And we'll change back to some snow as we head through the day on Wednesday as those temperatures dip right back down below zero for St. John's and eastern Newfoundland. And then for central Newfoundland, sunshine on Monday. Tuesday, again, rain, it looks like at this point, and some sunshine for Wednesday. And however, that will stay pretty chilly overnight Tuesday night into Wednesday. So we're looking at that potential for a few flurries on western Newfoundland, onshore flurries really at this point. And then for Labrador, eastern areas of the island, looks like your temperature will bump up above zero. You may see a few hours of some rain, but then drop again into the evening hours back down to the minus 20s. A little bit of a warm up, well, actually a pretty big warm up for western Labrador, minus 8, and then back down to minus 26 for Wednesday. Had to share this photo. Nice shot there. This is Good Morning Bombay. Greg shared this lovely shot with us. And if you have any weather photos that you would like to share with us, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Ooh, I love those clouds.
That is
what a great pattern.
Gorgeous. You know, we've been chatting about the passing of Ed Roberts, of course, and how many prominent politicians we've lost recently in this province. There's Bill Hogan, John Effort recently passed, and it also got us thinking that this time 2 years ago, almost to the day, is when another former Lieutenant Governor, John Crosbie, passed away.
Yeah, and the two of them were frequent sparring partners on different parties on the opposite sides of the House, although I remember them saying behind the scenes they were indeed friends. So it's interesting that it's, as you said, almost 2 years to the day that John Crosbie passed away.
January 16th was that big funeral. So basically 2 days, today's the 14th. So, and then we had Snowmageddon. Just interesting to think back at that time, we had no idea what was to come in all of our lives from beyond that point, for sure.
No. Well, and speaking of that, we are expecting Monday an update about the latest COVID restrictions. The province is going to review the numbers over the weekend, so we'll have lots more to tell you about on Monday's show.
Yep, tune in for that. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Good night.